The day started like any other. I had woken up early, as usual, to get everything ready for my wife, Emma's, law school graduation party. I couldn't have been more proud of her. I had worked tirelessly for months, helping her with the bills, managing the household, picking up extra hours at the office so that she could focus on her studies. Every late night I spent working at the office. Every sacrifice I made was so she could reach this moment. She deserved it. She had worked so hard. I remember the first time I saw her face light up after she got accepted into law school. Her eyes sparkled with excitement, and she said, "I'll make you proud, I promise." Those words stuck with me, even as I found myself supporting her through every step of her academic journey. I had always believed in us, our relationship, our future. We were partners. We were one. But little did I know, everything I thought I knew about her, about us, was a lie. It was during the reception, a couple of hours into the party, when everything changed. I was standing in the corner, sipping my drink, watching Emma smile and laugh with our family and friends. She was radiant, wearing a deep red dress that made her look like she had just stepped out of a dream. The guests were in high spirits, congratulating her, laughing, sharing memories of her journey. But the closer I looked, the more I started to feel a weight in my chest. A knot that was tightening with each passing second. I don't know what it was at first. Maybe it was the strange glance she gave me when I approached, or the way she seemed to be avoiding me more than usual. And then I heard it. Emma's best friend, Kate, laughing. I turned my head slightly, just enough to catch the conversation. At first, I thought it was just idle chatter, but the more I listened, the more the world around me seemed to disappear. "Isn't it funny?" Kate said, her voice sharp and piercing as she leaned closer to Emma. "He really thinks he's the one who made all this happen. It's too bad he doesn't know she's been seeing someone else. Someone much better than him." I froze. My drink trembled in my hand. What did she just say? I couldn't process it at first. I thought I was imagining it. But then Kate laughed again, and Emma joined in. The sound of their laughter hit me like a punch to the gut. I stood there, stunned, my heart racing. I had worked so hard to build our life, our future together, and here I was, overhearing a conversation that would tear everything apart. "God, he's too naive to realize," Kate continued, a venomous tone in her voice. "She's been sneaking around for months, and he has no idea." The words cut through the noise like a blade, slicing through the happiness I thought we had built, the trust I thought I had. How could she do this to me? How could Emma, the woman I had been there for through every hardship, the woman I thought I would spend my life with, how could she betray me like this? I turned away before they saw me standing there. I had to compose myself. My heart was shattering, but I couldn't let her or anyone else see it. I walked outside, my hands shaking as I tried to get some air. The cool evening breeze did nothing to calm the storm inside me. The betrayal hit hard, like a heavy weight pressing down on my chest. But I was determined not to let it show. I needed to think. I needed time to figure out what to do next. If you think you've been through something like this, hit that subscribe button now. Trust me, you don't want to miss how this story unfolds. It's going to get even more shocking. I spent the next few minutes outside, pacing back and forth. My mind was spinning. My emotions were in chaos. I couldn't stop thinking about what I had just overheard. How long had this been going on? How long had she been lying to me? How could I have been so blind? I had been the perfect husband, supporting her every step of the way. I had given up so much to help her achieve her dreams. But now, I felt like I had been a fool, a complete fool. The hardest part wasn't just hearing the words. It was knowing that Emma had been living this double life, lying to me every single day. I had trusted her with everything, and in return, She had betrayed that trust. The guilt started to creep in. Did I miss the signs? Had I been too caught up in my own life, too focused on making sure she succeeded? I thought back to the late nights she'd stay up working on her law school assignments, the times she would come home late, smelling like a different perfume. I had convinced myself that it was all harmless, just part of her busy schedule. But now I saw the truth for what it was. I walked back inside, but this time everything felt different. The celebration, the laughter, it all felt distant, foreign. I couldn't even look at her the same way anymore. Every time she smiled at me, every word she spoke, all I could hear was her laughter with Kate, mocking me, calling me a fool. I knew I couldn't confront her in front of everyone. Not yet. But I couldn't just let this go. Not after everything I had given up for her. She needed to know that there were consequences for her actions. She needed to know how badly she had hurt me, how much her betrayal had shattered me. And so I made a decision. I would expose her, publicly, in front of everyone at the party. I would make sure that she would never forget the consequences of her actions. But I had to wait. I couldn't do it just yet. I had to plan it carefully. I spent the rest of the evening sitting there like a ghost, my mind working overtime. When the time came, she would regret this. The hours that followed were a blur. I couldn't stop replaying what I'd overheard. The laughter, the mockery, the painful realization that everything I thought I knew about Emma was a lie. The woman I had supported for years, who I thought loved me, had been living a secret life behind my back. I tried to stay composed, to act normal, but every time I looked at her, all I could hear was that cruel laughter. He's too naive to realize. I kept hearing Kate's words echoing in my head. And that was the hardest part, the betrayal of it all. The feeling of being played for a fool. I tried to convince myself I was overreacting. Maybe it was just a misunderstanding. Maybe I was just too emotional. But deep down, I knew. This was real. The lies, the deceit, it was all true. I sat at the bar with a drink in my hand, trying to distract myself. But nothing could drown out the truth. The guilt and rage swirled inside me, each emotion twisting into the other, creating a storm I could no longer control. I had supported her. I had put everything I had into her success, her future. I had always believed in our life together, in the plans we had made. But now, everything had shattered. I couldn't just walk away. I couldn't just let it slide, not after everything I had done for her. She needed to know the pain she had caused me. I left the party early, my mind racing with a million thoughts. I needed to plan my next move, but more importantly, I needed to take control. I sat down in the living room, the room that used to feel like home, and pulled out my phone. I started to go through the messages again, the ones I had seen earlier. The texts were enough to destroy her, but I needed more. I couldn't just confront her with half the story. I needed to make sure that when I exposed her, there would be no room for excuses, no room for manipulation or denial. I pulled up her contact information and checked the messages again. There it was, in black and white. The truth. But I needed more than just the messages. I needed to get physical proof, something that would make her face the full weight of what she had done. I needed evidence, and I wasn't going to stop until I had it. For the next few hours, I researched everything I could. I went through her emails, her social media accounts, anything I could find. And then, there it was. Pictures. They were intimate, personal, everything I never imagined would be shared with anyone but me. There was no denying it now. She had been cheating on me, not just emotionally, but physically, with someone else. And the worst part? She had kept this secret from me while I sacrificed everything for her. I had trusted her with my life, my heart, and she had betrayed that trust without a second thought. I took a deep breath and looked at the evidence in front of me. I had everything I needed. She would pay for what she had done. The next day, I didn't speak to her. I couldn't. The anger was still too fresh, too raw. I needed to keep my cool, to make sure I was in control of the situation. But the more I thought about it, the more my resolve hardened. I wasn't just going to confront her in private. No, I was going to expose her in front of our entire family. I wanted everyone to know exactly who she was, what she had done. I wanted her to face the consequences in front of everyone who had trusted her. As the day went on, I made arrangements. I didn't just want to tell her. I wanted to destroy her world the way she had destroyed mine. I planned a family gathering at the house that weekend. It was supposed to be a casual dinner, a way to celebrate our life. But now it would be something much bigger. I spent the rest of the day getting everything ready, planning every detail. I wanted the truth to hit her like a ton of bricks. I wanted her to feel the full weight of the betrayal she had caused. I didn't care anymore about how she would feel. I didn't care if she was ashamed or embarrassed. She had crossed a line, and now she would pay. But even as I plotted my next steps, a small part of me hesitated. Could I really do this? Could I expose her in front of the people we loved? The people who trusted us both? Would this be worth it? But then I thought about everything I had sacrificed, everything I had done for her. The money, the time, the support. And she had betrayed me without a second thought. The day of the gathering arrived. Emma was bubbly as ever, completely oblivious to what was about to happen. She was excited, talking about how proud she was to be finally free of school, how we could start planning our next steps. But I could see the cracks in her smile, the way she avoided my gaze. She knew something was up. But she had no idea what was coming. The table was set, the guests arrived, and the night was in full swing. But beneath the surface, I was preparing myself for the biggest confrontation of my life. As we all sat down for dinner, I felt my heart pounding in my chest. The tension in the air was palpable. The only sound was the clinking of silverware, the occasional laugh, but all I could hear was my heartbeat, each thump growing louder in my ears. At the right moment, when the noise of the conversation died down, I stood up. All eyes turned to me, and for a second, I felt the weight of the room pressing on my shoulders. But I wasn't afraid. I was done being the fool. You won't believe how this confrontation unfolds. To see the shocking twist and how Emma reacts to her exposure, make sure you hit the subscribe button now. You won't want to miss the shocking truth coming next. The room was silent. I could feel all the eyes on me, the weight of my decision hanging in the air. Emma, who had been so lively moments ago, suddenly froze. She looked up at me with confusion, her smile faltering. Everyone was watching us, waiting for the next move. I could see her fidgeting in her seat, unsure of what was coming, but the nervous energy in her eyes told me that she knew something was wrong. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. This wasn't just about me anymore. This was about exposing the truth, about letting everyone see what she had done to me and to our relationship. I looked around the room, meeting the eyes of the family, our closest friends, and then finally, I turned back to Emma. The tension was unbearable. I think it's time we talk, Emma, I said, my voice strong, though my heart was pounding in my chest. I think it's time everyone knows the truth. Her face turned pale. She looked at me, trying to mask her panic with a forced smile. "What are you talking about?" she asked, her voice quivering just slightly. "You're scaring me." I didn't say a word. I pulled out my phone, the one I had been secretly holding onto for days now, and I placed it on the table in front of us, face up. I scrolled to the messages, the texts, the affair, the betrayal, the lies she thought she had hidden from me. "I'm not scaring you, Emma," I said quietly, "but you should be scared, because the truth is here. It's all right in front of you." I tapped the screen, and the messages began to show. Look at it. Look at what you did, I said, my voice rising slightly with anger now. Her face twisted as she saw the texts. Flirty messages, promises of secret meetings, intimate exchanges that no wife should ever share with someone else. The man she had been seeing wasn't just some random fling. He was someone she had been actively pursuing, secretly building a life with, while I had been there, playing the fool. For a moment, she was frozen. But then she quickly picked up her phone and started to scroll frantically, trying to deny it. But there was no escaping it. She looked up at me, her voice shaking, her eyes filled with fear and guilt. Please, this is not what it looks like, she whispered. But the denial sounded empty. Her entire demeanor crumbled, and she could no longer hide behind the facade she had spent months, maybe years, building. You really thought you could get away with it? I asked, my voice sharp now, my anger finally breaking free. You thought you could betray me, lie to me, and destroy everything we had, everything I sacrificed for you, and get away with it? She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. She was speechless. Guilt consumed her. I gave you everything, Emma, I continued, standing up now, pacing the room. I've supported you. I've helped you become the person you are today. I've worked my ass off to make sure you could chase your dreams, to make sure we had everything we needed. And what do I get in return? This. A woman who uses me for everything I have and then turns her back on me the moment she thinks she can do better. The family members sitting around the table shifted uncomfortably, their eyes flicking between Emma and me, unsure of how to react. But I wasn't looking at them. I was looking at her, the woman I thought I knew, the woman I thought I loved. And she was nothing more than a stranger to me now. You think I'm just going to let this go, don't you? I asked, staring her down. You think I'll forgive you, or just pretend like everything's okay because you're sorry? Her eyes filled with tears, but I wasn't moved. Not anymore. No, I said, shaking my head. You don't get to just say you're sorry and move on. What you've done, what you've taken from me, that's something you can't just undo. She tried to stand up, but I held my hand up to stop her. No, sit down. This isn't about you talking your way out of this. It's about me showing you what you've done. It's about everyone seeing the real you, the one you've been hiding from all of us. I turned to face the family. Look at this, I said, holding up the phone with the incriminating messages. This is who Emma is. The woman you thought you knew, the one who made us all believe in her fairy tale, is a liar, a cheater, and a manipulator. I watched as her face turned red with embarrassment, her hands shaking as she fumbled to come up with an explanation. But it was too late. The truth had been exposed. There was no going back. You've seen the truth now. Emma thought she could get away with it, but she didn't. If you want to find out how this story ends and what happens next, hit the subscribe button. You won't want to miss what happens when the consequences of her actions finally catch up to her. The room was silent, the air thick with tension. Some family members looked uncomfortable. Others were visibly shocked. I could see the disbelief in their eyes. Many of them had always seen Emma as the perfect wife, the one who had it all together. But now, all of that was gone. She had lost everything. I stood there for a moment, watching as the realization of her actions began to settle in. The guilt on her face was almost unbearable to watch, but I didn't feel sorry for her. Not anymore. The woman I loved had betrayed me, and now she was facing the consequences of her deceit. Emma tried to apologize, but I wasn't listening. She could say whatever she wanted, but the truth was already out. The damage was done. There was no turning back. I turned to my family, my eyes now scanning the room. Everyone was silent, unsure of what to say. But one person spoke up. My sister. Are you okay? she asked softly, her voice filled with concern. "What are you going to do now?" And for the first time since everything had started to unravel, I allowed myself to breathe. I had taken the first step. I had exposed the truth. But now I had a decision to make. The room was still. There was no sound except for Emma's soft sobs. I had exposed her. I had taken everything that she had hidden and laid it bare for everyone to see. Her secret, the one she had been so carefully guarding, was now out in the open. The truth had shattered her, and for the first time, I saw her for who she really was. She sat there, frozen in place, unable to say a word. I could feel the weight of the room on my shoulders. The family, who had once seen her as the perfect wife, the woman who had it all together, now saw her as she truly was. A liar, a cheater, someone who had used me and everyone else around her. But even as I stood there, watching her crumble, I couldn't shake the feeling of emptiness. I had expected to feel relief after exposing her. I had expected the satisfaction of knowing she would never hurt me again. But instead, I felt hollow inside. I wasn't sure if it was because of the love I had once had for her, or because of how deeply I had been deceived. Emma finally spoke, her voice shaky, barely above a whisper. I never meant to hurt you." I didn't respond. There was nothing she could say that would make it better. There was no apology in the world that would undo the damage she had done. She had betrayed me in the worst possible way, and in front of everyone who mattered to her. Her mother, Diana, who had always been so supportive of our relationship, was the next to speak. "Emma, how could you do this? How could you lie to all of us?" I watched as Emma crumpled under the weight of her mother's words. She had always been the golden child in Diana's eyes, but now the truth was out. She had no excuse, no defense. Her mother's face twisted with anger, but there was a hint of disappointment too. "You've ruined everything. Do you know that? You've ruined your marriage. You've ruined your future. And now we'll never look at you the same way again." Emma's shoulders shook as she sobbed. She looked around the room at the people she had spent years trying to impress. Her friends, her family, everyone who had supported her. They all turned away. The trust was gone. There was no coming back from this. But I wasn't done. Not yet. I walked over to her, my voice low and steady. "You thought you could get away with it, didn't you? You thought I was too stupid to realize what you were doing behind my back." I paused, watching her wince as if each word hit her like a physical blow. "I gave you everything, Emma. Everything I had. I built you up, helped you climb to the top, and this is how you repay me?" Her eyes were filled with tears, but I wasn't done. I needed to say this. For me. For all the years I had wasted. "You didn't just cheat on me, Emma. You cheated on us. You threw away everything we built. You threw away our future. And for what? A cheap affair with someone who couldn't care less about you? What did you gain from this?" She couldn't answer. She could barely look at me. The woman I had once trusted, the woman I had loved with all my heart, was nothing more than a stranger now. The family, once so silent, started to murmur among themselves. I could see the judgment in their eyes. They saw the woman she had been hiding from them, and they weren't forgiving her. She had hurt us all. But it wasn't just the family who had been affected. It was me. I turned to face the group. "This isn't just about me," I said, my voice filled with quiet rage. "It's about the lies we all have to live with now. It's about the people who trusted her and got hurt. You deserve to know who she really is. The truth is, Emma was never the woman I thought she was. And it's time for her to face the consequences of her actions." Her father stood up, shaking his head in disbelief. "You've destroyed everything, Emma," he said, his voice filled with frustration. "We never saw it coming. Not from you. I looked at her for one final moment before I spoke again. I loved you, Emma. But now, everything has changed. I don't even know who you are anymore, and I don't want to. There was no response. No words of regret. No attempts to salvage what little was left. The reality of the situation was too heavy for her to bear. She was defeated. You've seen how everything crumbled for Emma. The truth came out, and she couldn't escape the consequences. But what happens next? How does the fallout change everything? Hit the subscribe button now if you want to find out what happens in the next chapter of this story. You won't believe the final twist. I walked out of that room, my feet heavy with every step. The door clicked shut behind me, leaving the sounds of Emma's sobs and the family's hushed voices to echo in my mind. For a moment, I was alone in my thoughts, lost in the sheer weight of everything that had just unfolded. It felt like the world was shifting beneath me, like everything I had believed in had been crushed under the weight of her betrayal. But as the door closed behind me, I knew something deep within myself. I wasn't done. It would have been easy to just walk away, to leave everything behind. But I had spent too many years supporting her, too many sleepless nights helping her achieve her dreams, just for her to take all that and destroy it. I couldn't let her get away with this, not just for me, but for everything we had built together. I needed to make sure she understood the true weight of what she had done. The heartbreak, the public humiliation, the broken trust. It wasn't just my burden to carry anymore. I had to do what was right for me. I had to take my power back. I spent the next few days in a haze, working through the emotional aftermath. I didn't reach out to Emma. I didn't check my phone for her desperate texts or her tear-filled phone calls begging for forgiveness. I was done listening to her excuses, but the anger didn't go away. It stayed with me, bubbling under the surface, feeding the fire I had to extinguish. The truth had come out, and I had exposed her. I had laid her lies bare in front of everyone, stripping away her facade of the perfect wife, the perfect partner. But that wasn't enough. There were still consequences she needed to face. She couldn't just go on pretending like this didn't matter. I made arrangements. I couldn't let her just walk away from everything she had done. I picked up the phone and dialed a number I had been avoiding for a long time, the one I had been holding off on calling because I didn't want to deal with the mess it would create. But now there was no turning back. Hi, it's me. I need to have the papers ready. I want them filed this week. No delays. The words felt strange on my tongue. Divorce. It was a word I had never imagined I'd have to say to her. I had promised myself when we got married that we'd always face the hard things together. But there was no together left now. Emma had taken that from me. And now, the only thing left to do was to get everything I was entitled to. I thought about everything I had put up with over the years. How she had lied, how she had manipulated me, how she had turned our marriage into a game. Now it was time to make sure I walked away with the only thing that was still mine, my dignity. It wasn't long before the papers arrived, the divorce papers. I hadn't told Emma yet, but I knew she would know soon enough. The moment she saw them, she'd realize the full extent of her actions. The family would know the truth, and they would all see her for what she really was. I waited until the following weekend, when everything seemed to be calm. The house was quiet, and I could already feel her presence just as it had been before. The comforting warmth that had once been home. But not anymore. I sat down at the kitchen table, the papers in front of me, a quiet determination in my chest. I was about to change everything, and for the first time in weeks, I felt a sense of control. I had taken back what was mine, and now it was time for Emma to face the consequences of her actions. When she came in, her eyes were puffy from crying. She had probably spent the last few days trying to piece together the pieces of her life that I had shattered. She looked at me for a long moment, hesitating before speaking. "I don't understand. Why are you doing this? Why won't you just forgive me?" she asked, her voice trembling with desperation. I looked at her, feeling nothing. The woman I had once loved, the woman I had stood beside through thick and thin, was now a stranger. "You destroyed everything, Emma. You took everything from me. There's nothing left to fix." Her face fell, the tears welling up in her eyes. "Please," she whispered. "I never meant to hurt you." "You did hurt me," I said, my voice cold. "You hurt me more than I ever thought possible. You destroyed the trust, the love we had, and now it's over." I pushed the papers toward her. "This is the end, Emma. You don't get to apologize your way out of this. You don't get to fix what you've broken." She didn't take the papers. Instead, she stared at them for a long, painful moment, as if she couldn't believe what she was seeing. But deep down, I knew she knew. She knew what she had done. She knew the consequences, and now she had to face them. This is the final chapter, and the consequences of Emma's actions are now in full view. You've seen the heartbreak, the exposure, and the emotional fallout. But what happens after the papers are signed? What's next for me? Hit the subscribe button to find out the shocking conclusion to the story and how I'm taking back my life. The sound of the pen signing those papers echoed through the room like a final nail in a coffin. But this wasn't just about ending a marriage. This was about taking control. Taking back my life from someone who had manipulated and betrayed me. The weight I had carried for so long had finally been lifted. As I stood up and left the room, the sense of freedom overwhelmed me. It was a new beginning, one where I wouldn't have to live under the shadow of her lies. I walked out of that house, the place that had once been our home, and as I stepped out into the world, I knew that the only thing I could control now was myself. I didn't know what the future held, but one thing was certain. I was no longer the man who had been broken by betrayal. I was a man who had taken back his power, his dignity, and his life. As Emma sat there, surrounded by the wreckage of everything she had built, I felt a strange sense of peace wash over me. Yes, I had been betrayed. Yes, my heart had been shattered. But now, I was free. I didn't have to carry the weight of her lies anymore. I didn't want to be the man who let someone like her destroy me. And I certainly wasn't going to be the one who let her make me feel small. I was done with being the fool. Done with pretending like everything was okay when I knew the truth. I turned to leave the room, my mind made up. Emma had taken everything from me. But now, I was taking back my life. I walked out of the house, away from the wreckage she had created, and I didn't look back. The past few weeks have been a whirlwind of emotions, revelations, and heartbreak. But now, as I stand here, I realize that the journey wasn't just about exposing Emma's lies or taking back what was mine. It was about rediscovering who I am, reclaiming my self-respect, and moving forward after being broken. I've learned that, in the end, we're the only ones responsible for our own happiness. And no matter what happens, we always have the power to choose how we rise from the ashes. Emma may have thought she could manipulate me, use me, and betray me. But now she's facing the reality of her actions. The family knows the truth, and her life will never be the same. As for me, I'm walking away stronger, wiser, and more determined than ever to create a future that I can be proud of. This chapter has come to a close, but the story isn't over. And if you've learned anything from this journey, it's that we all have the strength to move past betrayal, to find our power, and to reclaim our lives. The hardest part is behind me, and now I'm ready for the next chapter. If you've ever been betrayed or hurt, remember that you're not alone. You can rise above it, just like I did. You can take control of your life no matter how lost or broken you may feel. Thank you for joining me on this journey. If you want to hear more stories of strength, resilience, and facing the toughest challenges in life, hit that subscribe button and join our community. You don't want to miss what's coming next. Stories of revenge, redemption, and the power of taking control. If you've ever had to walk away from something or someone that no longer served you, or if you just need a reminder that you deserve better, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you can stay updated on future videos. Because in the end, we all have the power to take back what's ours no matter what. Keep your head up, keep pushing forward, and remember, you deserve to be treated with the love and respect you give to others.